The estrogen mechanism. What are estrogens? Estrogens are a type of hormone secreted by the ovaries. They are active in regulating the development and function of the female reproductive system, as well as the mammary tissue during pregnancy and lactation. Estrogen levels are especially high during the years from menarche to menopause and are controlled by regular physiological processes like the menstrual cycle and pregnancy. Estrogens typically travel within the cell to cause their main effects. Once they are within a cell, they bind to proteins called receptors located inside the nucleus. These receptors are large molecules with highly specialized areas that regulate what substances can bind to them. Once a molecule is bound to the estrogen receptor, the complex helps regulate whether certain genes are expressed or not. Through this receptor-mediated process, estrogens can alter many cell processes. How does estradiol work? There are many types of estrogen found within the body. Estradiol is the most common form secreted by the ovaries. Estradiol's shape allows it to fit into the specialized binding area on the estrogen receptor, similar to a lock and key. Once estradiol attaches to the estrogen receptor, the shape of the receptor actually changes. The altered estradiol receptor complex binds to several specific sites on the DNA where it activates individual genes. This leads to changes in cell activity. Without a change in the shape of the receptor, there is no cell response. Sometimes natural estradiol is changed into different forms or metabolites of estrogen. The response caused by the receptor estradiol complex depends on the metabolite that binds with the receptor. Some metabolites mimic the effect of estradiol, others tend to block reactions. Different types of natural estrogens, as well as many synthetic chemicals found in products used in daily life, also bind to the estrogen receptor protein, but may interact with it in slightly different ways than estradiol does. Depending on the shape of the receptor that results, this change will either mimic or block the effects of estradiol. What are other mechanisms by which chemicals can affect cell responses? Sometimes estrogen-mimicking chemicals bypass the receptors and work on other proteins within the cell. Whether by direct binding with estrogen receptors or indirect pathways through other proteins, estrogenic chemicals interrupt the natural balance of cell responses. These chemicals can also change the ratio of the estrogen metabolites that control cell responses. Depending on the estrogenic strength and dose of the chemical, it can be anticarcinogenic, meaning that it lowers the likelihood of uncontrollable cellular division. On the other hand, chemicals can raise the proportion of cell responses and cause the cell to work overtime, thereby increasing the likelihood of cancer. How does estrogenic activity relate to cancer? When estrogens influence and enhance processes within a cell, they exert a stronger effect on estrogenic stimulation and increase the likelihood of cancer. This can be explained by the fact that these estrogens ultimately promote cell proliferation, which requires the replication of more and more DNA. As the DNA replicates, there is a higher chance that the DNA can become mixed up or mutated. In general, estrogenic chemicals that mimic or enhance natural estrogens tend to increase the number of DNA mutations, while estrogen blockers that inhibit natural estrogen reactions decrease DNA mutations.